Ladies and gentlemen, Kofi Smiles. We want the truth.
But you're not going to get an Infinity Saga again. You're going to get something else. Fully on with everything. Full of red wine, white wine. Do you want beers? Do you want mixers? Imagine if YouTube and BBC Three have a baby, but raise that baby in East Yorkshire or the Lincolnshire. Should have been up 10 minutes ago. Be like, oh, God, I'm up. Oh, it's so annoying. Let's do this. Here we go. You see what I mean? Emily's face just drop and producer Andy's like, oh no. Kofi, when you like mess up on stuff, it's kind of funny. You'll only have so much motivation. No matter what you do, you lift as you rise.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the DaneMellowsTalks podcast. We've got a very special guest this week. We've got BBC Radio Humberside Breakfast host. We've got the face of Hull. Ladies and gentlemen, Kofi Smiles.
How's it going? Thanks for having us. I'm talking to the camera, I'm talking to you.
There we go.
I'll talk to them both. But
Yeah.
I love this setup. I know I've been talking about how much I love it, but I think what you've got here is a very special gift. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah.
I came from student radio and I had one of the best times of my life.
Definitely.
Like the best times of radio, the best times just to get involved with media, best times to get involved with like creativity and just the people around you, just to have a laugh. So this is brilliant.
What's this setup like in the studio like compared to the one that you was using?
So I was at NSR for like my, can I say, proper radio show when I was at Northumbria University.
Right.
We didn't have a student radio station there, but we had like a state-of-the-art facility that was used for the media course, which was amazing. So when we did the radio module, and me and some friends in my class, we really got into it. We were like, oh, we need to set up a radio station. So one of our group projects was to create a radio station, branding, logo, objectives, that sort of thing, briefs and things.
Yeah.
And we had a station called The Pulse, and there was a few of us that kept it going, but we were doing like podcast radio, so everything was pre-recorded and it would just get played out, listened to online. But with NSR, they had a very similar setup to this, broadcasting at the uni, well, throughout the SU, and you could pick it up in certain places. But it was like a very, very narrow room with a couple of screens. Like we had like almost like a setup, like a desk, a little bit like yours, but it wasn't built in. Everything was like heavy and exposed. Bear in mind, I'm going back, that was 2010, 2011, so I'm going back about 12, 13 years almost. So everything was very bricky and heavy and stuff, and it just felt very like, you know, very bootleg, you know, but it was really good because we just focused on like the material and being able to come in and broadcast and stuff, and we had another room which was adjacent to it, but no sort of window looking through where the producer can see, and it was just very untethered, very unhinged and stuff, which I liked. But I really like this as well. So.
Well, I think we've been absolutely spoiled with this. Like we used to be up in the rafters, like I was saying before. But this new studio, we've absolutely been spoiled with it. And this wall here, where it says Jam, was actually supposed to be another window into the newspaper society.
Oh, brilliant!
So it was going to be like a whole thing there. I don't know if this plan is still with that, but I think they've got the Spoon's Kitchen in there now as well. But we were just like, as long as we get the studio, we're happy with all of this. But Kofi, I thought we could start the podcast off with a little bit of a game.
Okay.
I like to finish my podcast off with a game. For some reason today I was thinking we'll start it off with a game.
Okay.
So we're going to play a little game of this or that. So quick fire questions. So we want the truth. So we want answers as quick as possible, and we'll see what happens. So are you ready?
Right. Yeah. Shut my eyes.
Kofi Smiles. Game of this or that. You ready?
Right. Yeah.
Bath or shower?
Shower.
iOS or Android?
iOS.
Brownies or donuts?
Donuts.
A night in or a night out?
Night in.
Toby, Andrew or Tom?
Tom.
Infinity War or Endgame?
Endgame.
Thanos or Kang?
Kang.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
The Office or Friends?
Office.
Beer or Spirits?
Spirits.
This is the big one. On-air Kofi or off-air Kofi?
Off-air.
Off-air Kofi.
Is in off-air, is in like...
Not live, not on the radio.
Oh, so on air. Sorry.
Right.
I thought you meant like what do I, like, personality-wise, which one's a bit more relaxed. I think that's what my mind was thinking. I'll probably go on air.
Yeah.
I prefer doing everything live.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun doing it live. You do all your shows.
I do all my breakfast shows are done live. But I thought, for some reason, I was like, which personality do I prefer, on air or off air? But I feel like off air, I feel like I would just be a bit more me, and my references can be a bit wider, but on it, it's like I have to sort of narrow it down because the main bulk of my audience is coming from people who are like probably middle-class white people from the age of 45 onwards. So if I'm referring to what's going on Black Twitter or comic books and stuff, some of them are like, what the hell is he talking about? Do you know what I mean? Like, they even get annoyed when I say, you say man a lot, and you know, just why are you saying yo? And
Yeah.
what's the friendly neighborhood spell maker? I'm like, oh, okay, that's to explain.
If you don't get it, you don't.
Yeah. So I've had to sort of, do some proper code switching and stuff. But I like that.
Yeah,
that's really good.
It's just a little fun way to start off.
And I said Tom. I should have said Andrew. I should have said Andrew because he's my favourite. I think because that was the middle one, wasn't it? I think Tom was the last one I heard. Andrew Garfield's my favourite Spider-Man.
Have you? Has that always been, or has that just been since?
No. I like the Tobey Maguire films. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, because that was like an introduction. And I remember when Sum 41 did The Rock. It's what it's all about. It's what we live for. They did the theme tune for the first Spider-Man film, and I saw that video before they announced the Spider-Man movie, and I was like, oh my god, what's all this? And obviously the internet was in its infancy then. I think it was 200001.
Something like that was when I was born.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Wow. So that was 2001.
Yeah.
So there wasn't much information and stuff. It wasn't many scoops about it. But I loved it because it was fulfilling my need of wanting to see more comic book stuff on there, on the big screen and stuff.
Action.
Yeah. But then I remember when, like, The Amazing Spider-Man came out, and I followed the whole journey of it because around about, I think it's 2005, 2006... being a Donald Glover fan, since he was doing his his stand-up, his early stand-up days and stuff like that, and his Derek comedy days, we were following, me and my friends at the time, who were really big fans of his, like, YouTube stuff, when he did the Donald for Spider-Man campaign, where he wanted to audition to be Spider-Man, which obviously led to the birth of Miles Morales, because the writer of Ultimate Spider-Man at the time, Brian Michael Bendis, was like, oh, I grew up in New York, maybe there should be a black Spider-Man, because the boroughs and the communities he's helping out are mainly black and Hispanic. So, from that whole thing, Donald Glover auditioned, Andrew Garfield got the role, but I liked the idea and the direction that Mark Webb, the direction wanted to go in, a bit darker, a bit nerdier and stuff, which was a lot like the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, which is what I was reading at the time. Now,
I've always thought as well, the name Mark Webb is made for it.
Yeah, I know. It's like, and everyone's like, and your name's Mark Webb and you do the Spider-Man film.
Yeah,
and he always used to be like, yeah, okay. Everyone seems to be buzzed about that. But my best friend, my best mate Gaz, who's a huge Tobey Maguire fan, we're always arguing because he was like, he's too emo. That scene where he's skateboarding and his hair's all styled, it's like the Twilight and stuff. And I was like, oh man, but this is a Peter Parker for us, you know what I mean? He's probably listening to Dashboard Confessional, he's probably listening to Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy and all this sort of stuff, so he's going to dress like that, he's probably going to have that demeanour, and I just thought the casting was brilliant. Is it Rhys Ifans as the Lizard, Emma Stone as like Gwen Stacy, and their chemistry on screen, and then obviously I even thought like they made Spider-Man 2 was class. Jamie Foxx as Electro, superb. I thought it was incredible. I always forget. I can't remember his name. It was in Chronicle, the young lad that played Harry Osborn. Great casting.
His name
is Dane. Is it
I don't
Dane?
know his last name, but his name was Dane.
Oh
which
man,
I remember
Dane DeHaan or something. Something like that. But I like the aesthetic of it. It was really bright, and his costume just looked really like, I think they added quite a lot of saturation to the colour.
The eyes as well,
the big eyes, you know what I mean, the big bug eyes and stuff. I loved it, and obviously that scene where you got the death of Gwen Stacy and like the webbing comes out and it looks like a hand reaching out for her.
I've got goosebumps thinking about that.
It's good, and people should have turned out for it, but now everyone seems to be an Andrew Garfield fan. But I like Tom. I do like Tom.
Yeah,
I think he's
some great
brilliant.
films.
And I think he's given that new lease to what Spider-Man film should be: jerky, comical, and just like a little bit too naive. But I feel like the next trilogy will be more of like a.
He's been humbled a bit with it.
Yeah, he's had his power and responsibility moment and stuff. But
what did you think about all the callback stuff in No Way Home? To like that scene with Gwen Stacy falling. How it was then MJ Zendaya falling.
I liked it.
Tom misses her because of Green Goblin. Andrew comes through. Everyone in the cinema are rough.
Yeah, it's closure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Massive closure. And I feel like that Peter needed it.
Yeah.
Because the Peter that we saw was very, self-deprecating. I know Peter Parker can be, but extremely self-deprecating. He calls himself, I'll be Spider-Man 3, I'm Spider-Man 3. He's a Peter Parker that clearly might not be part of he doesn't have an Avengers. He doesn't have that group around him to lift him up, but you had Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, I found brothers, and there was such a need and a desperation to belong, and it's weird that he found himself belonging amongst himself, so maybe that gave him the courage to believe in himself and stuff. But it was great, and I feel like it was nice to know that he can go back to his universe knowing that he saved his MJ, do you know what I mean, in a way, sort of, or he saved his Gwen sort of thing.
He's made a massive impact on the MCU universe.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I do think with Tom's films, I don't know how you feel like they compare to Tobey and Andrew's, but Tom's Peter Parker, I think, is the best one out of the three of them to fit in the MCU.
Oh, definitely.
I don't feel like the other two would mould as well as he does. And like you said, that naiveness, I feel like is needed in the Spider-Man for what we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if you put Andrew with, I couldn't really imagine Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man.
Jr. stuff.
Yeah, not with the quips and stuff, and not with that sort of like jaded. I don't think the chemistry would be the same.
Yeah.
Because I like how Tom's Peter Parker just looks up to all these heroes, as you would as a teenager, like, oh my days, you know what I mean? We've got like aliens invading, and these are guys that are saving us from the aliens, and now I'm the only and now I'm a guy that can crawl on walls, and I'm web slinging, and like doing all these after school activities. So all these people who you're sort of, I guess, drawing from morally, you're now part of their team.
Yeah,
so you'd be like fanboying out, wouldn't you, and stuff. So I think they've nailed it, but yeah, I think the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, just a little bit more removed, a little bit more serious. But I think they've had that sort of opportunity to establish themselves as independent sort of heroes.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Stuff. Yeah,
it's a bit of a weird thing because they've been like established Spider-Men from seeing their origin story upwards, whereas we've got Tom's, where we've not seen his origin story.
Yeah.
He's not an established Spider-Man, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of weird thing with it, I think, kind of really works in the MCU.
Yeah.
What do you feel about Marvel films going forward now, especially with Ant-Man, Quantumania? Have you seen that one?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, Ant-Man, when we went to see it, we saw a very late night showing,
right,
and I fell asleep. So no spoilers here. Because we went to see it at the Odeon, very comfy chairs, you know what I mean? They're like lazy boys, you recline back, and it was so nice. I had my jacket wrapped around me, like, as if I was watching a film at home. And I fell asleep during, the main heist that Kang says, well, you can leave the Quantum Verse if you get this thing for me.
Yeah.
I fell asleep there, and I woke up just as they were finishing the final battle between Ant-Man, so I missed that major,
the entire team.
that major beat in the film where it's like, what's going to happen? But I loved that film. I think I'm a big Jonathan Majors fan. Everything he was in from Lovecraft Country, I think that was one of the first things I saw him in. Man, I was like, oh my god, this guy he's good, he's impressive. I thought it was good. I liked the world. It reminded me of like Guardians the first time. We're going somewhere else where,
somewhere new.
And like everything looks a little bit different. The culture's a little bit different, and the people a little bit different, which they could have explored a little bit more. And it was nice. It was a nice little like sort of family sort of adventure. But I'm just a bit worried that they are taking their time setting up something new. I'm like, Thanos was so big, and I think we are cursed. Because Marvel were the first to set up something so grandiose, a grand story over the course of like 12 years, that everybody's sort of used to that. And we've had, 2-3 years of like TV shows and films that are varied in quality and stuff. And I think people want more of the same, but I don't think Marvel can deliver that. I think Marvel have to be like, look, we can give you a story that spans a few years, but you're not going to get a Infinity Saga again. You're going to get something else. And I think if you're willing to accept that, you can have a good time.
And you can still enjoy it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And at the end of the day, they're films. What do you go to the cinema for? A bit of escapism, to see a story, you know what I mean? To see things that are a little bit fantastical. And I think for what I remember from Ant-Man, I think it delivered. And I've loved some of the TV shows so far. I think Miss Marvel is my favourite offering for TV. Loki, probably a close second.
Loki's a great one.
And
I enjoyed WandaVision.
WandaVision was great. Falcon the Winter Soldier was great. But Miss Marvel, I just liked because it was different, but it still felt familiar in terms of like sort of texture in its place within the Marvel MCU, and there was a lot of cultural similarities from what I remember going through at the age of like 15, 16, like coming from a West African family. Your parents are adamant that you're going to do this, but you believe in yourself to do that, and it's that conflicting thing of I don't want to annoy and disobey my parents, but also I want to be able to be true to myself and things. But I'm very hopeful. Moon Knight, I think, was definitely in my top 3 because that was
Moon Knight's a mad
that was just
show.
weird, wasn't it?
That
like
was crazy.
You got gods fighting over and around the Pyramid of Giza, and people like, some superheroes will sort it out, and it's just like people.
Another day in the office.
That's it. It's just that has been that sort of established that these sort of events that people are just used to it now, and that they're used to superheroes coming through. But I'm ridiculously optimistic because I've wanted this for so long since I was a kid, and we should just go along for the ride. I think
so. I think that's the best way to do it. With all the TV shows, all the films that are coming out, they're bound to get some wrong with the amount that they're pumping out at the moment. But hopefully that was left in Phase 4. Hopefully in Phase 5 and 6, it's a lot more refined. It's a lot more quality over quantity going forward into the next Avengers films.
They've slowed it down now, so they pushed back the Marvels to November. I think we were going to get 3 films this year. I think we were going to get 4, but we've had Ant-Man, Guardians is next, and then we've got the Marvels, but we've got Secret Invasion coming, which looks amazing. And I can't remember, do we get another TV
Loki's
show?
Coming late this year,
So that's 5 projects, 2 TV shows. I think Daredevil's next year, isn't it? 2024, which is a big series. So I think the fact that they're spreading it out, dropping bits here and there. So I think what they're doing is going back to 2 TV shows, 2 films, which is perfect. Because I still haven't seen Werewolf by Night. I haven't sat down and watched that yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't watch films on my own, man. Yeah, I can't watch films at home on my own. I can go to cinema on my own, easy. I love it. No, thank you, man. You know what I mean? It is. It's so nice. But at home, I can't do it. You know what I mean?
I like that. The first time I went to the cinema on my own was to watch Free Guy with Ryan.
Oh, really?
And that was just like, I was just in on my own. I was like, well, I'm going to go for a walk. Ended up walking all the way into town.
Yeah.
And was like, well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
On. Went to go watch Free Guy. Absolutely loved it. And just having it, because it wasn't a new release as well when I went to go watch it.
Right.
So there's barely anyone in there. I got a seat at the back and I could still check my phone.
Yeah.
Because there was no one there to disturb. And I was just like, oh, this is such a chill. And it's like watching it at home.
But on a massive TV. Yeah. And like, you'd have to, and not that this always happens all the time, but you'd have to worry about, the other people enjoying it. You can sort of do what you want, turn up when you want, and you can leave when you want and stuff. Although one thing I do love, when me and my mates go to watch any of the Marvel films, because we've been used to doing 4 films at the cinema before it all going to midnight, we're always the last one stood in the lobby chatting and discussing, and we usually go in a group of about there can be 15 of us.
Oh wow! Okay.
So we'll have a row or 2 rows or whatever, and then we'll just be stood talking about it, chatting, and then we'll be discussing it in the group. It's the very same people discussing it in the group chat the next day, and I love it because it's all of these people who I've met growing up from junior school to high school to college to university and out into the wide world of work. We've all sort of come together for our love of comic books and just sci-fi and just unique storytelling, and here we are having it presented on by some of the featuring some of the biggest stars in the world by probably one of the biggest movie studios in the world. So it's cool. It's cool, amazing. Isn't it? Yeah.
I've got a bit of a similar thing with some mates that I've met from Hull and from being around the uni. Not 15, 20 of us, probably about 5 or 6 of us that have always been. Especially last year when we were all around for our last year of uni, that was all just going through. Every time would be either midnight showing or first showing in the morning that we could get to was right there all together. It was really, really good.
Nice.
That's all come from being here at Hull at the uni.
I was going to say, do you have a favourite film from our favourite project from what Marvel have put out over the past? I guess 12, from everything, or a top 3 or top 5. It makes it easier.
No Way Home's got to be up there, just from the in-person cinema reactions, the nostalgia that came through with that. I'm a big fan of Winter Soldier.
Yes,
as well, it's a classic.
That was a game changer, I think.
And for also the same reason it being a game changer, Ragnarok.
Ragnarok. Yes, it doesn't get enough love.
There you go.
No way, I like that.
Well, what would you say your top 3 is?
I would say I'll put Black Panther in there. Definitely Winter Soldier, because I remember going to watch that. But it's hard because I've got to put a Spider-Man film in there. And you know what? It might be Homecoming.
Really?
Yeah.
Tom's origin.
I loved that film just because it was we saw that glimpse of him in Civil War. We didn't really know what to expect. Yeah. But then it was just the way the whole thing unfolded. The Michael Keaton as Vulture, and that bit in the car. Do you know what I mean?
Red and green traffic.
And he's and he's piecing it together
good old Spider-Man.
Oh my god! I remember just being in the cinema, and you got Donald Glover in there, and he talks about his nephew being in the neighborhood, so it hints towards Miles, and it was just we haven't had a Spider-Man film for so long. It was quite bittersweet because it was this for me. I thought this had to be good, because why are they investing in this when they could have maybe picked up something with Andrew Garfield? But as we said, it might not fit in this world and things. But yeah, I really liked it because it's given us a gateway to some interesting Spider-Man stories.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? To seeing some stuff that we haven't seen before. I mean, like Far From Home was all right, but I don't know. It was a bit. I want to see more him doing his friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah.
Like we saw in like Homecoming, you know, where he's hanging out at the bodega, where he's arguing with people out the window. It's like, yo, that's Spider-Man. What's going on, man? Shut up. Do you know what I mean? Show us like Spider-Man's New York, which I think what we're gonna get with the next trilogy. They're gonna scale it down, you know. But
I feel like Far From Home was a nice change to take him out of New York, because obviously Spider-Man has to rely on the high buildings in New York to swing around. So take that away from him. What's he got? But so I do feel like we've had a lot of that in New York before. So Far From Home was a bit of a stretch, was going out there, but I still really enjoyed it. What do you feel about revealing stuff in the trailers then? Because I know how you mentioned Spider-Man in Civil War was obviously revealed in the trailer. Another one that comes to mind, Hulk in Ragnarok. I would have loved to have seen those in cinemas, not knowing, and the goosebumps I would have got. Obviously in Civil War it would have been Queens rather than him stealing Cap's shield. Still, what do you feel about like the balance of creating hype for something? Also, like Daredevil and She-Hulk revealed in the trailer.
Yeah, I think Marvel are very good at misdirection. So every Marvel, I think most of Marvel trailers, they don't give away a lot, or they'll put stuff in the trailer that's not going to be in the films. Although that might be changing now because some people got really pissed off at what was it? What film was it? Was it? I want to say Emily in Paris. There's a film where there was an actor that was meant to be in it, but she wasn't in it. So they sued this company. They filmed one of the production companies, and now the law might be changing. They can only put things in a trailer that's actually going to be in the film. Because an actor that was meant to be in a movie, she ended up being cut out of it. She was only like a small part. Loads of her fans went mad. But like they did it with Far From Home, didn't they? Like that bit at the end where you've got one Spider-Man face, you got the Tom Holland Spider-Man's face up against three villains, and I think it was a Brazilian cut of the trailer. The lizard took a punch. I was like, who's punching the lizard? Like, who is it? And everyone's like, oh, they've clearly been edited out, because they did a lot of that stuff with the big final scene on Infinity War, didn't they? They put with people Hulk in it. Running. Yeah, and it was actually Bruce Banner in the Hulk armor. Yeah,
but
I don't know. I think I remember watching the trailer because me and my mates were losing our minds because that was the first time you saw his eyes dilate. Spider-Man's sort of like lenses dilate, and I remember just being like, "Oh my days, this is incredible!" and just being really excited. And then I don't think I watched any more trailers for Civil War because I watched one trailer for a Marvel film. And then that's it.
I think that's the best way to do it.
But
none of them like early release of scenes that they put out. Or
nah,
I feel like it spoils it a little bit.
It does, and I like to be surprised. I don't even I used to spend hours watching channels like Emergency Awesome. I don't know if you watch him. Hey YouTubers, this is Charlie. Do you know what I mean? And I used to be like, or like I think Nerdist used to do like sort of trailer breakdowns. I don't watch trailer breakdowns anymore because they're already talking about stuff that I know about, like references and influences and stuff like that. And I feel a bit bad because they've got me through some really, really hard times and stuff. But it's just nice to go in and watch it. But I think if I didn't know the Hulk was in Ragnarok, and if we knew Spider-Man was going to appear in Civil War, and he just popped up, and that would have been like a WTF moment. That moment where you've got that where Cap picks up the shield in that Endgame, and then you've got like on your left. Do you know what I mean? Where everyone's like, "Oh no!" I like that was. No one could have anticipated that, the scale of the ending for that film. But I think you're right. Leave us some surprises. Keep messing around with the trailers as well. So
there's a good balance that they need to find, and I feel like those big moments, like you say, they would have been absolutely electric to just feel in the cinemas. It would have been like that kind of Andrew Garfield, the Spider-Man mask off reveal in No Way Home, which everyone just like.
I need to watch that film again. Like
I watched it last night.
Did you? I need to watch it. I saw it. Did I see it twice? No, I saw it once, and I didn't get back to go and see it again. I haven't had the chance to sit down and watch it again, but I need to check it out again.
I did quick, and we'll close Marvel off.
It's fine, mate. I love it. You know me. I like to talk this all day.
I could talk about Marvel literally for 3 hours, but and my girlfriend, I got my girlfriend into Marvel, and she had no idea about like all the Spider-Man in No Way Home.
Right.
And we weren't all caught up by the time it came out in cinemas, but I went to watch it, and it was probably about 3 months later that I was trying my hardest to like avoid all spoilers for her so she could have like the same reaction. And it was that so it was in between Infinity War and Endgame,
right?
We all had to wait a year.
Yeah.
So I was like, you're not getting it the next night.
Yeah,
Or that
yeah.
we're having to watch 5 Spider-Man films, so 3 Tobys, 2 Andrews,
Oh, right.
in between, just
Yeah,
to give you
yeah.
that break and the anticipation. That was my excuse. But in reality, it was like, now you're all caught up
Yeah.
for No Way Home. So when No Way Home came around, she had that reaction as well.
Brilliant.
I was buzzing about it. But yeah, so to move on and switch gears from Marvel. So Hull, I mentioned at the start that you were named the BBC Face of Hull.
Yeah.
So what did that mean? How did you get that, and what did that mean to you?
So in 2017, Hull had its City of Culture year. 2016, they put out a call, and I remember just seeing it by chance on Facebook. BBC Radio Humberside are looking for somebody to represent Hull, represent the station. Well, represent the building during the City Culture year. So they were looking for a fresh face to be the eyes and ears, to be on the ground, doing a bit of reporting for online radio and TV. I saw it and I was like, oh, that's quite cool. I remember just like liking the person and sort of scrolling back. And then a friend of mine sent it to me. He's like, dude, you should do this. Because at the time I'd been home for, how long was I back for? I was back for a couple of weeks. So I left Newcastle. I was at Newcastle.
Is this after uni?
So this is after uni. So I finished uni in 2011, 2012, and then I did a year of my masters. But I was working for Apple at the time, and I couldn't afford to pay for the second half of my masters. So I went full time for Apple. Couldn't do a masters, and I was there till 2015. Left in the February and came home. Went down to London. Was living on my mate's couch for about a year, and working in his I'd recently just gone vegan, and I was working for his cheese truck where we were doing cheese toasties. Really nice, but really expensive cheese toasties at festivals and events in London. He's now pretty much the cheese king of London, but that's a different story. I was doing stuff with friends online, like our YouTube channel, Kofi's Kitchen, which is where I combine vegan cooking with pop culture and comics. And we were doing, me and my mates at CTK Media, which was our company. We'd been doing weddings and events, but in our spare time we'd do like web series and stuff. We'd sort of like, everyone was all around the country, one person was abroad, and it wasn't enough. Yeah. It wasn't enough to get some work, so I went to London and tried to get work in like TV, radio and online. Got a lot of TV and TV and film work, but then I realised the thing that was calling me was like, I miss student radio, I miss being able to do stuff like this, talk about passions, have weird ideas and get people in and discuss music and just, combine your interests in a really unique way. And I kind of felt like, at the time radio was the best outlet for me. And I came home and, I got in touch with some people at Radio Humberside and, really couldn't do much because there wasn't really much going and much available. But then this post came up. My friend Paul was like, dude, you should check it out. Seriously, consider it. So I spoke to my sisters, spoke to my friends and, brainstormed some ideas about it. And then the prerequisites where you have 1 minute to convince the panel of judges why you should be the person.
You did the Wheel of Hull.
Yeah, so I had this Wheel of Hull thing. So it was like a Wheel of Fortune wheel, pie chart sort of divided into like 6 pieces, which meant I would get one of the judges to come up, they would spin it, and it would give me 10, whatever it landed on, it'd give me 10 seconds to discuss, to talk about. So I had, in my memories, I was thinking now, so I had a picture of Spiders Nightclub, because I was like, well, it was just one of the best places to go, where all my friends went, the music that was played, like, I've been broken up in Spiders, but I've also been consolidated in Spiders. I've had the best times of my life there. William Wilberforce was on there because of his legacy to the city and my love for Wilberforce College. I had the Humber Bridge there because, as soon as you see those lights on the M62, you're like, yes, I'm almost home. I had this is probably a bad choice now. I had a sticker of Viking FM on there, a BBC thing. I was like, I loved Viking FM growing up. Used to go to all the concerts and events they put on, and I was just obsessed with radio as a kid. I had Clive Sullivan, the rugby player, just because I absolutely love. I started one of the main sports I played when I was younger was rugby league, and he was one of the few black rugby league players, and obviously coming from Hull or being like a patron of Hull, he was like an icon for us, and also had Amazing Fantasy comic book shop, which was like. I used to see it as like my, fortress of solitude. Do you know what I mean? So if I was having a bad day at school or college, I would just go there and wander around, speak to Paul who owns it, and save my dinner money up to try and buy some comics that week. And it was really cool. And like with I had 6 little boxes which all had a little prize in it. It had some vegan fruitcake, it had some sweets. It had a refresher lolly, and I had a picture of me at like 3-4 years old to go with it. So when I gave the prizes out to the judges, I was like, okay, so when you're making your decision about who's the face of Hull, please make this little boy's dreams come true. And I just wanted to give them something to remember me, because I thought when I saw the advertisement, I thought there was going to be like hundreds of people there. I thought it was going to be about 1,000 people turn up, because it's a big role, because they were offering a year's employment with the BBC, and I thought it might be just doing the odd few things a week. I didn't realise it was going to be a full-time job with a salary that was going to open up opportunities to, do things with on BBC News, on BBC World News, do things for Look North, do things online, and have your own radio show on the weekend. It was like fully on with everything, but it was massive. It was a huge opportunity. I thought loads of people would go for it. And there was about just over 200 people there. It was a long day, turn up at 8:15. I didn't get seen until about 4 o'clock. Yeah. But you're talking to people in the queue and stuff. And it was, honestly, it was great. It was a fun day. I was like, well, I'll give it a go. I didn't really think I'd be chosen, because when you think about the average person that comes from Hull, you don't think of a black person with piercings and dreadlocks. And I only went to school in Hull, but I lived in Windsor. I grew up in Wivensey. So it might be like, well, it's a bit too on the fringes. People might not accept it. But I went for it. And I managed to get down to the top 10. We had a day's assessment at the BBC, so we had to do radio tests. We did screen tests with Look North and stuff, and then I got down to the final 3, and then it went from like 10 to 3, and then 3 to me. And then then, for the City Culture year, and I said to myself, if I get this role, I'm not going to drink for 2017, because I don't have the best memory, and if you have to do like bits of camera, and you've got radio stuff, and I've got to be up early, I don't want to be hungover and stuff. And I ended up just doing a sober year. I was just not drinking. It makes me sound like I've got a drinking problem, but I was just like, I'm not drinking. I want to be able to absorb it. I really want to take it in. But that year there was so much free booze everywhere, and I was like, I'm really being tested now. Like, we'd go to like gallery openings at the fair. We'd go to like exhibition openings at the Fairlands Art Gallery. 10 o'clock in the morning, and just tables like this, full of red wine, white wine, do you know what I mean? People ask, do you want beers, do you want mixers, and like all these press events and after parties and stuff. Yeah, and I was just like, oh my days. And I was going to so many parties, just being the only like sober person there. It was to be fair, it was fine. Yeah. So I've done stuff like that before, where I just, I've chosen not to drink for certain periods of time. But it was, I said I made a pact with the universe, and I'm going to have to stick with it. Yeah. So
and you did. So
yeah, stick with it. So 2027, 2017. I took in everything, and I just wanted to make a lasting impression, because from like my second year at uni up until then, so I started the role when I was 26, 27. I spent like 6-7 years applying for BBC apprenticeships, BBC trainee schemes, trying to get work experience, work for free, do you know what I mean? And every time getting that little bit further, but not knowing what more you had to do, trying to get that foot in the door. And so I just wanted to make sure that I could try and keep my foot in the door, and hopefully get myself in the door long enough that I could hold it open for other people as well. My mum's always been like, no matter what you do, you lift as you rise, because that's the only way that's the only way society excels. Yeah. That's the only way society can grow, for people can sort of realise their ideals and dreams and things. So, it was a big year. I can honestly say it changed my life. Yeah. I probably might not be here speaking to you now. Do you know what I mean? There's been a few moments in my life where I'm like, if I didn't make that decision to do that, I wouldn't have gone on to do this and stuff. But yeah, it was good. It's been fun.
Is that how you ended up landing the gig at the breakfast show then?
So after the City of Culture year, there was a project that my editor at the time wanted to start up. They wanted to work with people aged 16 to 35 a lot more, because we realised through City of Culture we really started engaging with that age group, but also wider communities that are often quite ignored by the BBC. So I'm talking like people from ethnic minority backgrounds, BAME backgrounds, LGBTQIA backgrounds, A+ backgrounds, and then you've got for lack of a better term, working class groups as well. Yeah. And we really started to have some good positive relations, allow people from these groups to tell their own stories and interact with the BBC online, radio and on TV. So we wanted to create something that allowed us to continue that. I found have something in place where we could work with these people, work with these audiences, and maybe trying to find a way to fund them throughout the rest of the output. So myself and my colleague Martha, who worked in 2017, we used our contacts and our digital know-how to create BBC No Filter. So the best way I can describe that is it was, imagine if YouTube and BBC Three have a baby, but raise that baby in East Yorkshire, Northern Lincolnshire, and then we would work with people and say, look, what you're up to, what you're interested in, and we go to schools, colleges, community groups, and we spent the first 2-3 months of the project just talking to people, turning up, being a part of groups, working with them, and getting to know people until people felt comfortable to tell their stories. But the main thing, what I realised, is that you'll get a lot of people that were like, why do you want to hear my story? Do you know what I mean? Young carers, people that were had specific interests, or people that were just, if they were doing something that was part of their day to day that we thought was interesting, because we're not living that life. Do you know what I mean? People who aren't living your life will find it interesting because it's new, it's novel, innit? We were able to sort of bring them in and work with them, and we had a Monday night show where we would take a theme. We could talk about comics. We could talk about, I don't know, like what do students want? How do students gain their own autonomy? We talk about like porn, masturbation, whatever.
Yeah. And literally no filter.
Yeah, it was no filter, and the show was on Monday nights. I would curate the playlist, do music interviews. I'd be going around the country, like, saying, "Oh, I've got a BBC Radio Humberside show. Can I come and chat to you at your gig?" And it was brilliant. So we did that for about 3 years. Then obviously the pandemic hit, so we couldn't have people in the studio. So we had to sort of wind it up a little bit. We kept it going for as long as we could, but we couldn't really do it the same. And then I think my job role changed to help out with the Make a Difference stuff. So find stories of and be part of the mutual aid groups, and see who's doing what, who needs help, and how we can funnel that through our services at Radio Humberside. And then I think they were just thinking of changing up the breakfast presenter, and then I saw the I saw the advertisement, and I was like, I'll be honest with you, I've never thought about breakfast on any station. The breakfast it's never really been my interest. I'll be honest with you. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're going for the big job." I was like, "What do you mean?" Breakfast is like meant to be the crown jewel of any radio station. I'm like, is it? I always thought it's having the trust to do your own show. Do you know what I mean? Having the trust to do like something like Specialist, and everyone's like, nah, it's all like, for the earlier you start, from breakfast, the earlier you start, the more credibility you get as a radio presenter, as a journalist. And I was like, well, I'll go for it. I'll pitch my ideas. So I pretty much tried to condense what we were doing on No Filter and say, well, this is how I would do it on a breakfast show. You know what I mean? Bringing more voices in, bring different audiences in, letting other people tell stories rather than having it just be the presenter interviewing people and stuff, and doing more OBs, having a bit more fun, more games, more music, and they seem to like it. So that's how I got it, and I've been doing that since September 2020, I think. So it's a few years now into the breakfast show. Yeah.
What's that impact like on your sleep schedule? Because obviously you're into start at 6.
So the show starts at 6. I'm at work for 5.
So, like, what time do you go to bed?
So if I'm being disciplined, like yesterday, I was in bed for 8, and at the latest had lights out by 8:30.
Wow.
But then if I'm being really, really good, I'll get into bed for 7, so I can get my lights out by 8, because I'm not the best sleeper. I'll sleep for maybe 2-3-4 hours and I'll be up for an hour, or I'll sleep for about 3 hours and I'll be up for a bit, and then it's very broken sleep, and it's just been a nightmare. Like, for me, but I'll be honest with you personally, I haven't dealt well with it because of just my usual habits. I'm staying up late. I'm used to staying up late and reading. Once I get I'll pick a book, comic, I'll be reading some manga or something like that, and I can just go. Do you know what I mean? Once I start, and then I'm like commenting on stuff, and like there's an app where you log all your books, and you can engage in communities, and I love all that sort of stuff. I'm catching up on the news, and it's just that has been the discipline for me, and trying to fit things like gym and food prep and life. When my day is ending, everyone else's day is lighting up. Some group chats and family members are calling. Everyone wants to chat. People wants to do certain stuff. So it's just been a case of like learning to put yourself first. But I wouldn't change it, because it's been a really good experience. It just means I've had to learn how to change a few sort of, I guess, systems in my life.
Yeah. I mean, I bet it was like a bit of an adjustment period getting
still,
to that.
Still.
Yeah.
Still, I'm just like, oh, go on. I was sat there this morning because last night I went to bed. Like I said, I went to bed on time.
Yeah.
I must have fallen asleep about 8:30. I remember waking up at 1 and be like, oh, God, I'm up. Oh, it's so annoying. Then I fell asleep again and looked at the clock. It's like, oh, it's 2:30. I was like, right, okay, I'm up in an hour. And then I fell asleep again. It was 10 to 4, and I just remember lying there like I should have been up 10 minutes ago. And I was just exhausted because I didn't prep my food last night because I got in late because we had a long day, and it was just like I'm too tired to get up and cook, and I just was like, oh yeah, it's just. It's tiring.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So going through with being tired, going in and starting your breakfast show.
Yeah.
Have you ever said anything that maybe like you shouldn't have on like a live radio broadcast?
Oh, I did it today.
Really?
I did it today. So we've got this mystery celebrity game called Star Treks. Brilliant game. Where throughout the week we have a mystery celebrity in place, and every day we give you clips of 2 songs, which are clues to who that celebrity might be. And I don't know the answer because my producers, Andy, who came up with the game, because we had to change the game with the new brief because of how the music policy was changing.
Right.
And they're like, we want a music game that we can do after 9 o'clock because we get really good interaction. It's fun. It's nice for us. It's something else to look forward to. And they were like, do you want to know the answers so you can tease? I said, no, I want to figure it out because it's part of the fun.
Play the game in the moment.
Yeah. And like, I feel like it's me and the audience, we're all in it together because like some of the audience members get it way before I do, and they start ripping the piss out of me because they're like, oh, Kofi, come on, hurry up. And there's days where I've got it, they've got it, and I haven't, or I've got it, and the people that are usually really quick haven't got it, and they get really angry. So it's nice to have this relationship with our audience and stuff. There's a guy called Darren who sometimes will get it within a minute of hearing the one song, 2 songs, but he's just like shotgun names like Les Dennis, you see what I mean? Do you know what I mean? It's just and he'll nail it sometimes. We're like, come on, but the whole thing is we want people to make the link between the song and the artist. So this week it was Lady Gaga, and I got it on Wednesday. So we played things like, I think, what was the clues? We played Fame by Irene Carter. We played Monster by The Automatic. What else do we have? I think I'm trying to think of the ones that aren't obvious. We played the Barbra Streisand song from A Star Is Born. Do you know what I mean? All this sort of stuff. Right. So we play like about a minute and a half each song. And I got it on Wednesday, and we were like, oh, Star Trek's Day, it's the answers and stuff like that. And in our studios, we've got like a window that you have there, but it's directly in front of me. And producer Andy, he's getting up and he's having a dance while we're playing the Star Trek's theme. And I was like, yes, here we go. It's Star Trek's answer day. It's Thursday, so we're going to give the answer in about 20 minutes time. And yeah, we can't see him, but producer Andy and Emily were up on their feet, and I was like, producer Andy, you're excited today. You're a Gaga fan. And they were like, oh, and then Emily, you see Emily's face just drop, and producer Andy's like, oh no, he's laughing, and now I'm just quiet, not saying anything about 40 seconds. And then everyone's just like, oh no, he's giving the answer away. And I'm looking at the text box to see if people are going to tweet in because or text in because he's just giving the answer away. And then I'm just like, oh no, what do I do? And everyone's just laughing. And I was like, so anyway, let's carry on and see what Star Treks we've got today and stuff. And that happens like maybe once a quarter. Because it happens once a quarter where I get to a point where like my brain is just mashed potatoes. And I know stuff just comes out. It's the same with buttons as well because I'm so muscle memory based and driven, by doing that. I know that, okay, well, I've come to the end of this interview and I've got to press this button to get a stab in for this, or I need to pull this in, and I'll just press something without looking sometimes. And sometimes things are in the wrong order, or I've been looking ahead at stuff and I haven't gone back and played the wrong thing. So it's just like if I'm at least 10% off, I'm just going through the motions and just trying to get through it. Whereas if I'm on it, it's like before I press, I'm like, hang on, is that the right thing? Just a glance, it's all it takes. Yeah. But that's just how much sleep can affect me. Yeah. So, but I've had responses from people. They're like, Kofi, when you like mess up on stuff, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. Sometimes it makes the show.
Yeah. And it's like, and sometimes you make little mistakes, and rather than getting flustered, what am I doing? It's just like, oh, sorry, let me just start that again. I'm getting messed up with my words. And okay, so on the A63, this has come through, or it's that sort of stuff. And I feel like when things can be too polished, you feel a little bit removed because when you're talking with a mate, you're searching for the words, you're looking for the words, and it's just a little bit more realistic. And I've always wanted to have that like podcast feel on the show, maybe because I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff, but I've always thought like podcasts and good radio are as if like you've got 2 people talking on the bus or two people talking in a restaurant, and you might be like on the table over, but then you're almost as if you're part of that as well. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean exactly.
Yeah. So
I feel like that's definitely the way that you can get the best podcast coming across and everything. It's like we've not got a script going through today, and we're not like I'm reading word for word. Naturally, and finding the words as they're coming out. It's that Michael Scott quote, isn't it? Where it's like, I don't even think about what I say before I say it. Something like that.
I love it. You need to get that on like a plaque in here. You know what I mean?
Definitely. That's just the absolute inspiration for radio. Talking about inspiration for radio, going from, I know you said before you've always been wanting to get work and apprenticeships and experience with BBC and everything. And you was doing that for, did you say 6 years?
Oh, I did that for for years. Yeah, long time. About 6-7 years.
So how did you find, because that's the process that I'm at the moment now, just trying to get out there. This is the reason for the podcast and radio shows, for everything that I'm doing really. So how did you keep that motivation going, and how did you keep that drive and willingness to get to the point where you're at now, where you've become the face of Hull, you're BBC Radio Humberside Breakfast host?
I think because I loved it.
Yeah.
And I think because I had things like YouTube to, anytime I watch the video, I do things like YouTube to inspire us. So anytime I watch a video from Mr. Sunday movies, listening to the Weekly Planet, watching things like Emergency Awesome, I was like, oh, that is so cool. I'd love to just talk about comics or talk about films and stuff like that. And that would give me a bit of a buzz and excitement. And then the same thing when, as soon as I hear new tracks or discover new bands, or when, Zane Lowe was on Radio 1, and even when he moved over to Apple, I'd always be consuming media and things that I loved and, wanting to do more with it. So I remember setting up this comic book podcast with some friends called Comic Box Rumble, where we'd give prizes away and we'd give each other challenges to say, look, we've got to create an X-Men team, and you've got to come up with an X-Men team, 5 to 6 characters, and they've got to have a motive, and we would give reports to each other under a timer. And it was cool because as long as I was putting content out, I didn't really care where it was going or where it was heading, because I was getting fulfillment, enjoyment from the thing, and writing and creating scripts with my mates. And I think for me, it's just always been about storytelling in one way, shape or form, or being able to sort of advise or offer something to someone, be like, mate, you would love this, check this out, and then let me know what you think, let's talk about it a later date. I've always been interested in that. It's like, when I was at school and I used to go to Windsea Market and get all these copied VHSs and DVDs and take them to school and share them around, and people would ask me I'd get shopping lists on a Friday, and I'd be there 6:30 in the morning shivering, waiting for the guys to come along, and I'd help them unload, and they'd give me a £5 and I'd put that £5 back into getting loads of videos and stuff. And just bringing people together through suggestions and bits of art where people are going to offer opinions. I mean, I remember at school on wet playgrounds, and when we had a wet lunchtime, I'd managed to find the units that had the video and the VHS thing, we'd get that and we'd wheel it into one classroom, and I'd get loads of people in from my year, and I'd be like, right, I've got the Breakfast Club, let's all watch it. And we'd have all these kids just watching the Breakfast Club, and then we'd be talking about it later on, and just subconsciously bringing people together through art and stuff. So I've just always really enjoyed that, and because I've been surrounding myself with people who are interested in that as well, and have the willing and the drive to create, make, but also constructively criticize what you're doing.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? It's always that, you do need that. It's always really good having friends and the people that are around you that are willing to be, oh yeah, mate, that's class, that's mint. But you need to make sure that you've got the ones that can be like, hang on, that doesn't make sense. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Or maybe when you're presenting, just take a breath and try to, process what you're saying a bit more, or slow it down, or maybe not approach people in this sort of way. Or, have you tried I don't know, introducing this genre into it, or, structuring things like that. And I believe that tribe is very important to your creative development and drive, because you'll only have so much motivation. There's going to be days where you are not motivated, but if you are accountable, if you can't be accountable for yourself, be accountable for 2 other people. I think that's massively helpful.
No, definitely. And I think the stuff like you're saying with your YouTube videos on Kofi's Kitchen as well, something I've seen, I've enjoyed watching.
Oh, thank you.
And I think my favourite one is the Captain America Super Soldier smoothie serum.
Oh, right,
You've got that puppet at the start of it. I love that one.
Thank you.
Stitches.
Oh, funny.
Have you got a personal favourite from Kofi's Kitchen?
The Deadpool one, I was surprised we did so well, because I remember I went to one of my best mates' birthday parties, and they were always a messy, messy thing. And I'm talking like, I didn't get to bed till about 4 o'clock in the morning. Then I had to be up at 8 to drive to... Where was Cash living? Was he in Sheffield? I was in Sheffield.
Right.
And then I had to drive to... Was it just outside of Doncaster to get Cash? Drive to my sister... No, drive to Leeds to get Cash. Drive to Doncaster to my sister's place where we used Hair Flat to film. We had to film all day. Then I had to drive back to Leeds to drop Cash up. And then I had to drive back to Withensea. Oh, and I remember just being hungover, messing up my lines. The chimichangas and stuff, the Deadpool chimichangas didn't turn out as well as we did, and run out of ingredients, and we had to try and find a place, but it was on a Sunday, so it was like 5 to 4, so everywhere shut early, and it's just like, oh my days, it's really been such a long day. And I was like, actually, this was pretty funny, but thanks to Cash and Callum who edited it, it turned out alright, do you know what I mean? But they were really fun, and we had loads planned, but what we do at CTK, we get caught up in our own ideas and we develop loads of stuff and we start filming loads of stuff. And then we get overwhelmed with stuff that we've got to film and edit and then process, and then we die back and then we come back. But we over the past few years, we've had such a good sort of process of just like, right, what's the one thing everybody wants to do this year? What you're doing? And we've been able to work towards it and stuff. But yeah, I like the Deadpool one. Batman one was funny. Like, sorry, your parents are dead chocolate cake. Yeah. I was like, oh my day, is that a bit on the nose? But like, people seem to like that one and stuff. And and also, I've got a lot of love for the first one, the Wookiee cookies,
the Wookiee ones.
Yeah, because we were like, should we just give it a go? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And like, we put it out and we were like, oh my god, this is actually really, really fun and stuff. We've got we're doing some more this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice. Which, because my sisters and we've had people like stumble on the videos in the past couple of years, sending us messages like, are you still doing this? And why are you doing this for TikTok? And I've just been a bit like, oh, what can I do now? Will it work on TikTok? Is it not a crowded market, the vegan food thing? Because at the time when we was doing it, veganism wasn't what it is today. Yeah. Did it mean? And people talk about pop culture. Yes, it was big, but it wasn't what it is today. And it's like, is it just going to get lost in the noise? But it's very unique within itself. So I was like, right, okay, looking at what is coming out this year and what we can do, I was like, right, okay, I've come up with some recipes for this, that, and the other. And then we'll film these across the summer and then start putting them out and get ahead and stuff. So
I think there's pretty much a space for everything on TikTok, just adjusting that tight short form, like very snappy and quick transitions and everything. Yeah, no, that's really good stuff. And I know that looking back on the Kofi's Kitchen videos must like fill you with a bit of joy and stuff.
Oh, I love it.
The vlogs and stuff that I've done at uni, I often just look back on and like there's one's during like beer gardens where barbers were still shut. Where there was one vlog where I finished it with cutting my mate's hair.
Oh, what?
Like with my beard razor.
He knew about this?
Yeah. It wasn't just like he was asleep.
Yeah, just like, I just got his hair for the vid, you know what I mean? Awesome.
But it did not go well. I butchered the back of it and everything. But then the start of the next one is like 3-4 weeks later. And it starts off with like, I need another haircut. And I do it again for him. And again, butcher it again.
Yeah.
But just looking back at stuff like that, it's just really funny. So you must get like the same sort of stuff with the Kofi's Kitchen ones.
But do you have your old student radio shows? Have you got them saved?
Yeah. Right. I remember saying this last summer at This Is Hull. And I was having a look for them just before we started. I can't find them on here, but they're somewhere on there. Yeah. Get
them. Get whatever you can, because I've got very few of my student radio things, and I know they're on a hard drive somewhere, but it's just taking time to filter through. But I found links to my old Mixcloud and stuff that I've done with my friend. So Jess is that.
No.
So she does like BBC introducing for Radio 1, and she does it in London. So we were both at NSR. And we've done a few like shows together. And I found some of the stuff that Jess and I did, and I was like, oh my god, Jess, remember this? And you know what I mean? Just listening to it and just thinking, man, this is so much fun, and it's actually really good. Do you know what I mean? And I just think I'm in this process now of, well, I have been for a while, of looking and going back and keeping a track record of stuff that you've done that you might have thought was either, I don't want to look back at that, or I've grown or I've changed so much, but was instrumental for you getting to where you are now. Definitely. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got a gratitude diary, and at the end of the every day I write 4 things down that I'm grateful for, because sometimes it's nice to sort of flick back and look back. And recently the BBC, we have had to reapply for our jobs because of all the changes that are coming with the reshuffling and restructuring of the BBC local radio. And I was saying to my sister, I was like, you know what, this has really been quite eye-opening, because I've forgotten, well, not forgotten, but like you get so caught up with like, okay, we've got a show to do today, let's do the show, then I've got to go out and do X, Y, Z for tomorrow's show, for next week, and you get caught in this hamster wheel of just like getting through to the next thing and not really sitting back and take it in. But I was determined not to do that after I was at No Filter, because when I was doing No Filter, because everything was like BBC Three and like aimed towards like 16 to 35-year-olds, which is the perfect catchment for Radio 1, and because that has always been my dream ever since I was a kid, I was like, oh man, whatever I do in here during this opportunity has to take me to Radio 1. And I realised that I was just so caught up in that, I wasn't really focused, or I wasn't really being able to sort of sit in and really enjoy what we do with No Filter. Because now when I think about No Filter, I miss it so much, because it was the show that allowed us to, it felt like student radio again. It allowed us to play around with stuff. It allowed us to connect with people. It allowed us to get so emotional with the guests that we're having on, who were sharing their stories, like talking their truth. And it was just, I wish I sat in it a little bit more, rather than thinking like, how do I edit these videos? How do I make this social stuff to make it look like, you know, to get the right attention of like what I was calling like the right people at the time, rather than like sinking in and just not stressing with how this is going to carry on socials, how this is going to sort of carry forward. Why can't I just sort of sit in the present and enjoy it now? But I think that's the biggest lesson that I've taken. But it's always nice to have those moments where you look back and think, okay, this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing, because you'll have a moment where you think, oh, what I'm doing is mental, is crazy. But when you go back and look at all the steps that you've taken to get these skills, get these get the right attributes that you need to do certain stuff, it's a really beautiful thing, I think.
I can agree. I know stuff with like doing the podcast now has all like stemmed from when I came to uni. I had this video, my first YouTube video was like a Q&A or whatever, right? So that's what I wanted to get into, and like push that side of it forward to get then into stuff with like radio and stuff. And it was the weekend before I started here at Hull, and I was like, if I don't put this out now, I'm not going to put it out, because I'll get to uni, I'll meet new people, and I'll be like, oh well, don't think this of me, think that of me. So I put it out, and then since then I was doing videos throughout my time at uni, which has then now led to doing this podcast, and I've got the platform on YouTube for it, and then through doing student radio as well. But it all stems back to stuff like those original videos where I do look back on it and I'm like, oh god, or like, what was I thinking in that? But it is like that was the first step to all this stuff now.
Well, that's it. It's the bedrock, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, I think we take for granted that first step. I think we were so caught up in these big milestones of, okay, now I'm doing this big thing and now I'm doing this big thing, but it's like you need to dial it back and think, okay, what are the steps taken in order to be prepared, in order to be good enough for the thing that I'm actually gunning for. Do you know what I mean? And like, what am I prepared to not want to hear, but be able to sort of hear those things and take it on and try and sort of evolve from, okay, where am I making the mistakes? Well, no, I don't want to say mistakes. Where do I need to improve? Or what can I switch up? What can I learn? Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, I'm constantly asking my team, like, look, at the end of when we do our team meetings, like, okay, any feedback for me today?
Yeah.
And I've told them, just go in, oh, I don't like the way you did this, or maybe next time try to sort of ease back on that, or you don't always have to say this out, you talk about, a bit of music history after the song. I know you're excited about a tune, but sometimes we need to be snappier and stuff. Let's just move on from it. Just, if you've said what the song is before it, just go into the next thing. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, all right, okay, and some things you'll take on, some things you won't, but then you can try it the next time you're doing a certain thing.
I think that's the best way to do it. And like you're saying, that constructive criticism is so vital in moving forward and stuff like this. Kofi, I've absolutely loved speaking to you today. There's one more thing that we do to close out the podcast.
Right.
And that's what they kind of do, the same thing on Diary of a CEO podcast.
Yeah. My sister's not, you know what? I've got like, where's it gone? I've got about 20 episodes of that downloaded on my phone to listen to.
It's like a motivational one. That's why I love listening to it.
I've got so many of those. Yeah. I've got the Tom Billieu one, I've got the Chris Kamara one. I've heard a clip from that, and it's going to send me into tears. The James Smith one, the personal trainer. My sisters are obsessed with it. Krypton Kroner, Michael Gladwell, and Terry Crews is on there.
Terry Crews is an amazing
is it?
Yeah.
Right.
I've stuck on that though, and I was like, I did not expect this to be spoken about, especially from Terry Crews' side of him that I was like, I didn't know existed.
He must talk about his porn addiction and porn
yeah.
addiction and just like, you know, failing and, you know, his NFL career, his wife and stuff.
His upbringing.
Man.
So the Lewis Capaldi one's really good as well.
Really?
Maisie
I didn't
Williams,
know he's done that. Right,
Maisie
okay.
Williams, amazing one.
I've got Reggie Yates on there, Rangan Chatterjee, Wretch 32, Simon Sinek as well. I've got loads. But I'm away. I'm off for a week, and I said to myself, right, I'm going to start. I'm going to listen to because like my sisters are constantly like sharing clips, and I'm seeing sound bites, and it's for a lot of people who are just I feel like in a space at the moment where they're creative and they're doing things and they're figuring stuff out. They're always sort of refer back to his podcast.
I love it. And that's why I've kind of ripped off the end of his show onto this one basically. And so what we do is the previous guest asks the next guest a question.
Oh, brilliant.
And that's what we end on. So last week I had Nathan Collins on, who won the World Cup for Wheelchair Rugby League.
Oh, brilliant.
He was in the team that won the World Cup for it.
He's from Hull?
No, so he's from Leeds.
Okay.
But we did that one over Zoom.
Brilliant. But, nice one.
His question for you was, who is the most famous person that you've ever met?
Oh, man. It depends. Because it's like, I guess if he was going to say politically, I interviewed Kofi Annan, who was the former Secretary General for the UN.
Right.
He came during the City of Culture year, and we did like a Kofi on Kofi thing. Spoke about
nice.
you know, what is freedom about. He spoke to the Youth Parliament when he was down, and obviously Hull is a city of sanctuary. So he spoke about what that meant. He looked at the legacy of Wilberforce coming from Hull, and you know, we're both Ghanaian. Just spoke about backgrounds and stuff, and he met the entire Ghanaian community. Well, I said a lot of the Ghanaian community came out. We had a huge traditional procession, and everyone in the kente cloth and the drum. We had a drumming group, and so it was beautiful. Do you know what I mean? He met my parents and all sorts. So I'd probably say Kofi Annan. I'm like, which musicians? We've interviewed quite a few musicians. Emily Sandé. Who did Sean Paul? No, we saw Sean Paul at Big Weekend.
Right.
Grimmy, Greg James. Who else have we done? There's been loads. Charlie Sloth. I've met a lot of people within the industry.
Yeah.
Clara Amfer. I've met Reggie Yates. What's he called? Chris Moyles. I'm listening to loads of radio people now.
It's fair. They're the ones that I'd be expecting. Yeah.
God, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. Jeremy Irons, have interviewed him. Who else as well? God, I don't know. But I'll probably say Kofi Annan.
Yeah.
And then maybe Greg James. I've met him quite a few times. Quite a lot of people from like Radio 1 at various like radio events and Radio Academy stuff, and they've been amazing. I remember like Greg James started following me on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, you know what I mean? Oh, this is it, because I did get the chance to speak to him, but then he sent me a message like, oh, sorry mate, he was doing a talk, and I think he was getting Joie. I think it had just been announced that they quite recently started the breakfast show, and was going to talk to each other. But then, like, he had to go, and, like, I was getting called by my editor because I had to get ready for the interview I was doing. And he was like, right, I'll try and catch you later. But he sent me a message. Didn't have to do this. He didn't have to do it all. I was like, oh, mate, sorry about that, mate. You know what I mean? It was a really busy day. Nice to see you, but, like, you know, speak to you soon. And then I had, like, Greg James follow me. I was like, wow, this is crazy. Do you know what I mean? I saw him. We did an interview with him when he was down for the Big Weekend, the BBC Radio Academy. And I didn't realise he could play the piano really well. I was within this tiny room. We'd just done an interview with O Wonder. And he came in with... I forgot his name now. He used to introducing... I don't know. I forgot his name. This is really, I feel really bad. Hugh.
I'll find out. And I'll
it was Hugh. What's his? I can't remember his name. But then they were just in there. And then Greg James is just playing the piano and stuff. But yeah, that was a good one because we had like Bastille down. We interviewed Bastille. You, me at 6, and there was just loads of people that weekend. And throughout, going to visit. I went and sat in a couple of times on Trevor Nelson's show after I interviewed him when he did this big concert at the Bridlington Spa, and like managed to sort of like go down. I was like, oh, I'm trying to find Trevor. Can I have a chat with him? And one of the producers that was part of the event was like, yeah, come on, we'll find him. And we had a chat and stuff. And I was just like, can I come and sit in on your show and see how you do things? Because, you know, you were such a lifeline for me. My sister's growing up in Withensea and things. But that's a very hard question. I'm going to leave here and I'll be like, oh, I should have said, do you know what I mean? Oh, I should have said about this person and stuff. But yeah.
Who would you say either Greg or Kofi were like your highlights of that list then?
I think Kofi and Anne, because growing up in Withensea, knowing that there was this other person called Kofi, even though I knew there was a lot of Kofis, I never saw Kofi on TV. Very rarely seen black people on TV, like growing up in the mid-90s and stuff. Like Kofi and Anne was this prominent, like I guess, political figure that my parents and, you know, all the family members would talk about. You see him in the news and stuff like that. So I was like, that's really, really cool. And I guess his legacy as well, the work that he'd done as, you know, as Secretary General of the UN. And he was, you know, it was quite funny because, and I could tell this story now. I remember we was posing for a picture after the chat, and he's Kofi and Anne. So I'm thinking, we just had this really cool conversation. We're like BFFs now. Do you know what I mean? Do I put my arm around him or not? So I'm there, stood next to him, and he's like this dude in a suit, this old dude in a suit, grey hair, really refined, really dignified, really warm, gracious energy. And I'm there trying to figure out, do I put my hand around his waist or his shoulder? And he just looks at me like, kind of like how, you know, your granddad would look at you where he's like, come on, you know, so he's like, he goes, put your hand down. And like, I remember my videographer, Ben, seeing him be like, oh no, he just got told off by Kofi and Anne. And I was just there like, yeah, okay. So I just sort of crossed my hand in front of me like a kid that should be told that. You know what I mean? So, and that moment will stick with me forever. Because I remember telling my friends about it, telling my parents about it, and they were like, oh no. They were just laughing though.
Amazing.
So, I'll put that down, but it's been really nice. Yeah, probably like Kofi and Anne, I think.
That's
just because he was a G. That's no slight to Greg James at all, because he's such a polite fella and really, really nice guy and stuff. So
a close third.
Yeah, close second. Yeah.
No, amazing though.
Yeah.
So, do you have a question for the next guest?
Are you allowed to know who your next guest is?
I can tell you afterwards, but I won't say it.
Okay. Actually, no. Save it, because then I'll listen and see how they deal with the question. So, who's the most famous person I met? So it's a completely blind question. I like food. Okay, so I like food, I like drinking, I like movies.
Nice.
It is a Sunday.
Okay.
You are hungover. Okay, like it's been a heavy night. You've had a great night. It's one of those nights where you haven't left the dance floor, but somehow you've been able to have a drink in your hand because you've got great friends and strangers about your drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It's one of those nights. You know what I mean? You know the song you know the lyrics to every single word that's come out of the speakers. The DJ is like, you know, he's got you there. He's got you in his palms. So you've had that type of night, but it's the morning after. You're tired. You're hungry. You've got nothing to do. You don't need to be at work that day. In fact, you might even have the Monday off. So you're just going to chill out on the couch. What you eating and what you're watching or what you're listening to. Is it a film? Is it a TV? Are you even one of those people that's like, I'm just going to read for the rest of the day? Insane. Crazy.
Hungover.
Animals. Monsters. You individuals. I know a few people that do that. They're like, I just want to curl up in a ball and read a book with a good book and some music. I'm like, mate, fair play to you. It's a hungover Sunday. You've got a crazy hangover. What are you watching and what are you eating? Do you know what I mean? What's the food that's going to get you through the rest of the day, and what you're going to put on, what you're going to do?
Very nice. I know for me that'd be.
What would it for you?
I'd be on scrambled eggs in the morning,
right?
Because they're my hangover cure. I don't know what it is. Scrambled eggs, vitamin C tablet,
right?
It gets me sorted, and I'd just be listening to the radio.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. What are you drinking though? What are you having? Are you water, juice, or
the
vitamin C tablet?
It's like an orange flavoured.
Right,
sorts me out. What would you?
For me, usually, I like that. Well, being vegan, I usually either go for like tofu scramble.
Nice.
Tofu scramble's a big one for me, so because I can get in like my spinach, my kale, and when I make tofu scramble, I might put a bit of vegan cheese in there, and it's a lot of protein, some gluten-free bread, and usually I'll just be drinking coconut water, and I'll have ample amounts of, because I've always got watermelon, mango, and I've always got grapes in the fridge. You get your magnesium, you get your vitamin A, your K, your vitamin C, all that sort of stuff you need to sort of pick up a little bit. I love it, and I will be catching up. I think at the moment it's either going to be copious amounts of anime, so I'll either be watching some catching up on One Piece, or seeing what's new online, or might go as old school as rewatch some more Studio Ghibli, or I'll be trawling through something on Disney Plus, like finishing Atlanta, or like Abbott Elementary, or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Just something that's quite easy to watch, quite funny. So
something that you can just have on. You don't need to focus on.
That's it. Dip in and out. Nothing too serious. You know what I mean? I can't dive into like a new series, or something that's a bit too like sci-fi. Because I've had a few Sundays where I've just been knackered, but I've wanted to. I haven't started season 4 Stranger Things?
Yeah,
just because I don't have the time, because each episode's like a movie, and I struggle.
Especially towards the end, like an hour and 20.
Well, this is it. I can watch 4 to 6 episodes of a TV show, half an hour, 40 minutes each. That's longer than, that's 2 films.
Yeah.
But sitting down and committing to a full movie, because I'm like, oh, man, what happens if after 30, 40 minutes I need to get up and do something I'm not interested in it? That triggers my anxiety. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just like, I'll just keep it away. I'll keep it safe with like a 22-minute like mockumentary and stuff.
I like it though. Yeah, great answer and great question for the next guest. So Kofi, thank you very much.
Mate, this has been absolutely brilliant, and I'm glad we finally managed to do this, because it's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming.
I've really enjoyed this.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean? And I just like your style, your vibe, and you make it's very. I think not a lot of people have the skill to make people feel comfortable. Do you know what I mean? And sit in a space and come into someone else's house and sit down and talk about hopes and dreams and ups and downs and stuff like that. But like just whatever you're doing, or however you prep yourself to do this sort of stuff, don't lose this.
Oh, thank you.
Don't lose this like this vibe, this demeanor, because it'll take you far. And I think one of the best things I think you can do is make someone feel like they want to tell you and they trust you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like I never thought like, I can't say this in case Dane does this with the edit or stuff like that, or like what's gonna happen. It's like no, like. I trust this guy with with the conversation and stuff. So
really appreciate
I wish you the
man,
best of luck, and like I said before, if there's any ways I can try and help you, you know what I mean, I will do. And like obviously, just keep plugging at it, and like mixing things up, trying things. You know what I mean? Like yes, you got the podcast, you're doing the vlogging, you've got like 2 things. You're already ahead of a lot of people that want to get into this sort of stuff. Get messages from people all the time. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, I want to do this. Where I want to do this in radio. I want to do this in TV. Oh, you want to be behind the camera? Do you want to be in front of it? I don't know. I just want to work TV. Are you doing this behind the scenes? Are you vlogging? Are you writing? Are you putting anything online? Do you do anything on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram? Most people don't do anything. They just like the idea of sort of being sort of famous and stuff like that.
To get there, but
that's it. Do you know what I mean? But you're doing it, and stuff will come. Stuff will come as keep trying and practicing, and like the fact that you're reaching out to people that aren't in the city and finding ways to do the interviews, man, that's massive. And I think it's just people are just an email or a tweet away, and I think people forget that. Do you know what I mean? Not being shy to ask, do you mind just having a chat about this, that, and the other for a half an hour, 40 minutes and stuff. So.
Or an hour and 12.
Hour and 12. So, you know what I mean? Like,
but no, I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much.
No problem. Anytime.
But again, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate your time, because I know you're a very, very busy guy.